go. Crack on. Okay.
Can you see it in present mode now? Oh, there we go. There we go. Should be able to see.
I think it'll come now.
It's a bit slow, sorry.
It's all right. Here it comes now. Here we are. Off we go.
Okay. All right. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sophie Davies, and I currently am at Cefn Primary School. I'm a Year 5 teacher, and I'm currently leading on curriculum design and innovation. I'm just going to give you a little bit of a background about me because it has had an impact on my leadership tasks. So I started my career here as a teaching assistant about 12 years ago now, and I did my foundation degree and my BA degree whilst I was a teaching assistant. And within that time, I took on the lead for digital learning and PE. I covered PPA, and then I progressed, did my graduate teacher program and graduated and started my teaching career as a Year 6 teacher. Shortly after that, I went and taught internationally for 3 years in Dubai. And whilst I was there, I taught in the IB curriculum, the British and the American curriculum. I led a Year 2 team. There was, obviously, the schools are a lot bigger out there, so we had 10 classes in Year 2. So set me up nicely for the role that I'm in now. And I also led on data and assessment. And then I came back to Cefn Primary last summer, where I am now a Year 5 teacher, and I'm currently leading on curriculum design and innovation. So when I came back, I was asked to take on this role, and the problems that I noticed within our planning and our approach to curriculum for Wales was that there was inconsistencies in planning. So there was little to no focus on a learning journey. Planning was heavily focused on tasks rather than looking at a journey. Teachers were, and I know they probably still are, but run to the ground, really. Workload was just way too much, doing medium-term plans, weekly plans, daily plans. They were spending too much time writing up the planning rather than thinking about the learning journey. A big problem for us was that the AOLEs were not equally weighted. So there was lots of cross-curricular tasks. Maths and literacy was really was strong across the curriculum, but there was no real vision for it. We had a real lack of science and technology, very little creativity, and no clear progression across themes and progression steps. There was lots of things being taught repeatedly in Year 3, 4, 5, 6, and lots of gaps. And also there was limited opportunities for assessment. So we was heavily reliant on the end of unit assessments and GL assessments, limited opportunities for formative assessment. So not really a clue about where the children were going in their journey, just really giving them a test at the end. AFL strategies were really inconsistent and not being used purposefully. And there was no way of measuring progress throughout the theme. And the skills were being assessed, but the knowledge wasn't. So the first step in my approach was to collect some data. So we were quite far into our journey with a new curriculum at this point. So teachers had a good idea of what was needed, but didn't really know how to get there. So I sent out some questionnaires early on in the autumn term, and the questionnaire provided me with qualitative and quantitative data. The qualitative data was going to provide me with measurable data for me to be able to measure the impact of what I was doing. However, the qualitative data was going to give me the information on how I needed to move things forward and what approach I needed to take. So although I didn't collect any other raw data at this point, I soon gathered from parent engagements, which we carry out at the end of every term, that parents didn't really have much of an idea about what their children were learning either. Lots of messages were coming back to us when provision maps and topic webs was being sent out, and they didn't really understand what was going on. So that, alongside the staff's response, as you can see here, that 84% of people thought that our approach to planning wasn't beneficial. They didn't see any consistency of progression and skills across progression steps. And they wanted to introduce an effective way to assess the students' knowledge and understanding of the theme. So from here, I looked at our autumn term planning to evaluate what was going well and how we could move this forward. And this actually came at a good time because we were called for inspection at this point. So Yeah, and it was here that I decided to trial planning out the themes around an end goal. So at this point, I identified what was working well. So I won't read from the screen, but you can see what was working well, what we needed to work on, and then how we was going to do that. I decided that we would trial planning around an end goal, which should be an opportunity for children to showcase their skills and their knowledge learnt, and ensure that each AOLE is planned as a thread rather than standalone, which I'll come to a little bit more later. So at this point, I had to, I'd not been a member of SLT before, so this was a new role to me. So I had to work alongside them to ensure my ideas would fit in line with the school's curriculum. And I found this quite difficult at the time because I didn't really want to step on people's toes. I knew that there were certain members of SLT that had been working on curriculum for Wales, and a few teachers had been involved in the process as well. But I did feel quite strongly about my experience that I'd had in with regards to teaching 3 different curriculums. I felt like I could pull the good bits, leave aside the bad bits, and pull together something that would suit us at Cefn Forest Primary School. So this is a rough plan that I came up with for teachers to go alongside to see how we could plan more effectively. So again, I don't want to read from the slides to bore you, but basically I wanted them to work backwards, and I wanted to think about what they wanted the children to achieve by the end of the unit, and then how they were going to get them there through experience, skills and knowledge, and then bringing in our bread and butter, the vocabulary, key questions, and then making sure that those AOLE experiences, how were they going to progress throughout the topic, and how were they going to build on one another and complement each other to work towards the end goal. So following that, I wanted to come up with a planning format that was a valid use of staff's time. So I encourage staff to plan backwards, with their end goal being the drive for the learning journey. So here's an example of our inquiry planner. And I understand that this was a huge mindset shift for lots of people. So we had to set aside a lot of staff meeting time to allow staff to ask questions and to bounce off one another. And I trialed this myself in my own classroom before introducing it to the staff, so that, like the children, they had a good model to work from. Now the challenges at this point were adapting it for progression step 1. I'm in progression step 3, and that's what I'm comfortable. So I needed to work on that myself. And also only having 1 teacher per year group was quite a challenge because they didn't really have anyone to bounce off. I noticed at this point that there was a need for some whole school training. So we invested in some time to upskill staff on expressive arts, design and technology, and music. And we also had some external providers coming in to help us with that, like Upbeat, and we did some willow weaving. So at this point then, I've lost where I am, sorry. So we had a little look at the importance of rich vocabulary throughout, and then and we had a little look at walkthroughs to help teachers with strategies which link to their own professional development. So whilst the staff worked on their planning, I invested some time further in my research on Teach Like a Champion. So I went on this the Douglamov training back in November, I think it was, and I was trialing some strategies myself in the classroom so I could advise and support staff. So here are some of the things that I pulled from Teach Like a Champion. I think it was amazing, and it's had a huge impact on our teaching practice so far. But these were some of the strategies that I felt like they could use within their classroom to help them to support with this process. So there was a few checking for understanding strategies that I liked. So means of participation, there was cold calling, agree, disagree and build, and silent solo. And I have got some examples of those if anyone would like to see it in practice, but I'm aware of time.
Minutes ago. All right. 1 minute? Yeah.
Okay. I also use things like observation sheets and stamp it. Now, modules that supported me throughout the process. Number 1 was getting to know staff, rebuilding my relationships, and making sure that my emotional intelligence was high to recognise and understand emotions in myself and others. I'm going to whiz through these ones because I want to get to the impact. So The second one was leadership styles. My approach and my leadership style was going to impact on staff's performance. And I really wanted to create a positive learning environment, which would ultimately influence their discretionary effort. And then changing our school. So making sure that I had a clear vision, we had a can-do attitude, and had a strategic plan so that teachers trusted in me and trusted in the process. Okay, so challenges as we went through, knowing my people. So coming back to a group of staff that I was familiar with, that was really tricky for me, because I felt like I had been in this roles at some point. I was a teaching assistant, I was a high level TA, and I understood that I needed to approach them in different ways. We had leaders were the only people who seemed to be doing any thinking. It was sort of left to SLT and AOLEs leads weren't really chipping in together, and the AOLE teams were not working together. They were seen as, well, science is my subject, so I'm going to look after science, whereas we need to see these AOLEs as a thread, not as standalone subjects. So the outcome, here's an example of one end goal from the spring term. So the children's topic was pits and ponies. So they've been learning about mining in the local area, and had finished with a unit on regeneration, looking at how mining brought money to their local area. So to hook the children into the end goal, we had a local builder come in and deliver a letter to ask them to design a new use for the old Britannia colliery. And the children were so excited and engaged, and it was a perfect opportunity to be able to assess their skills and knowledge learned throughout their whole unit. So I gave them this success criteria, which is color-coded, linked to the AOLEs, so they had a clear vision of what was expected of them. This was a group task, but they had to individually present and ask questions throughout. The end goal was planned so that I could assess their knowledge and understanding of a range of key questions from each AOLE. So when complete, there's some of the examples that they built. So we invited the parents in so that they could showcase their work. The children had created ebooks to go alongside, which mapped out their whole learning journey from the whole term. And this gave us an opportunity to really engage with the parents in an informal way and provide them with the opportunity to ask questions about the new curriculum and how it looked for us at Cefn Forest Primary School. So here's some of the comments from the children. And the impact this has had on staff, well, you can see 100% now of people. There was only 4 responses because trying to get them to respond is really hard. But they all now think that planning is beneficial and purposeful. The impact on the pupils. Here's some comments from some year 5 and 6 pupils. So we can show our teacher that what we know in a creative way, which is much better than a test, and they feel amazing. The whole ethos and attitude towards learning is really up-leveled. And the impact on parents, there's some comments there from parents. They feel like they know now what they're learning about, and they really enjoy coming in and engaging with the pupils. And then the impact it's had on myself as a professional is I feel like I've gained a deeper understanding of curriculum for Wales. I feel like I've been able to pull those things from the different curriculums that I've taught previously and build something that really suits us as a school. Become more confident in AFL strategies, and as a leader, I've developed effective leadership styles for different purposes, scenarios, and people, knowing how to approach them in different ways. I've learned how to support the more experienced. I really struggled with I had to take a different approach rather than dictating. I had to coach and empower people that were a lot more experienced than me, and a few years ago were the teacher in the class and I was the teaching assistant. So I found that really tricky. And then asking open-ended questions and adapting more of a coaching approach rather than delegating and dictating, as I just said. So really quickly, sorry to go over, but next now, I need to think about an effective way to assess the children's learning journey, not the tasks. And I would need to measure the impact that this has had over a longer period of time. I also need to look at how this looks across the school. As I said before, progression step 1 isn't really my bag, but I need to up-level myself on that. And develop effective teams. So there's some things that I think that our teams need to work towards to be able to make this really successful. And I just wanted to finish with this quote because I thought it was really powerful, and the end goals approach has really given us the opportunity to prove this. Our children are now retaining their skills and knowledge in an authentic and fun way, and I'm confident that our curriculum is supporting them now and preparing them for the future. So thank you.